Tasmai Sri Guruve Namaha. These are the gurus. We all know Dr. Mahendra Vatsa. The second person next to him is a very close friend, also a gynecologist and a surgeon. Both rolled in together in the form of Dr. A.G. Sathe, who are pioneers in sex education, therapy, and into building up, into creating new educators and facilitators. I would also take some time to talk about a very dear friend whom we lost, who was supposed to be part of the conference. He was a speaker for this conference. Our dear friend Dr. Shantanu Abhyankar, whom we lost on the 15th of August 2024. An activist, a part of the Andhashraddha movement against Andhashraddha, and a very beautiful writer. You can get his videos on YouTube also. Coming to the point, lack of sex education. Most important. We are a developing country, or rather we can say the 10th largest economy in the world, but yet we are lacking behind in sex education. A little bit of, we can say, lack of vision from the policy makers. Influence of religion and culture, we all know. Mughal period, Victorian era, they have their own ideas of shame, guilt, parda, etc. And we were more liberal before that, they say. So yes, secrecy, taboo, and phobias. Phobias, let's talk about phobias, like we still have homophobia. We still have a lot of diversity which is not accepted. Secrecy and taboo, long time issues. Curiosity is what we see in younger adults, but it's also there in the elderly people. And what do we do to quell the curiosity? They get into internet. And internet porn becomes a huge influencer for these young people. And we are fighting against a huge mob of over 10 lakh sites. So you can imagine that we need to empower ourselves into getting the right information across. Wrong information, there are Gyani friends of younger people who guide them, and they tell anecdotal stories, and that's what influences them. Pornography, we'll talk about it later. Internet is flooded with miracle cures. Internet propagates its own kinds of myths and misconceptions which people believe because it is there in the internet. And as a clinician, we all have to argue against people who are getting their knowledge from the internet. Celibacy, brahmacharya, virginity, purity, all these still are being celebrated. We get questions from school students as to why not promote brahmacharya and why brahmacharya is important, etc. And we have to answer. Effects of misconceptions. What are the effects of misconceptions? Fear, guilt, shame, and self-doubt. Nothing much to speak about it. Anxiety, depression, and effects on mental health are always there. People get drawn into certain practices. They feel guilty about it, and they feel that anybody, and quack tells them कि आपकी नस कमजोर हो गई है, you have done a lot of things. If you would have not masturbated, your penis would have been a foot long, etc., etc. And we have kind of miracle cures for that. So this, and anxiety about performance, anxiety about finding a partner, anxiety about courtship, etc. Sexual dysfunctions do happen, premature ejaculation and other dysfunctions are there. Marital conflict, divorce, suicide, great indeed pumped up expectations lead to such kind of conflict where the ladies also have a particular idea about what they feel sex should be, or they don't have a proper understanding of the pleasure that is involved in sex. Victim to quackery, as we all know, people spend lots of money in miracle cures, and you are bombarded by offers from the internet for increasing penis size, increasing the timing, etc. Conflicting gender roles, people are unable to accept their orientations, and hence they have a lot of feelings about being cursed while having homosexual fantasies. No concept of appropriate sexual behavior. We really don't tell people what sex should be. My teacher used to tell me, Dr. A.G. Sathe, is what is togetherness, what is sex? It's a relationship of sharing, caring, togetherness, and mutual trust and respect, where the ability or the empowerment to say no comes at every stage. That is freedom from fear, shame, guilt, and coercion. There is absolutely that is the definition of what a partnership should be. There should be freedom from unwanted pregnancies, from STIs, RTIs, and there should be what happens between both of them is to be considered as a matter in between closed walls. How they face the world together is what matters. And we all know these common myths which were discussed largely. I won't go much into that. Penis size, shape, angle, foreskin, semen is precious, thin spurt, it spurts down, dribbles out, wet dreams. Dhat syndrome, I would like to spend a minute on this. It's a culture-bound phenomenon. Usually people think it is only related to the northern Indian like UP, Bihar, but it's not so. In Maharashtra also we have a lot of myths and misconceptions about dhat. When the dhat was examined, didn't have any sperms, but yet people are having so many psychosomatic and vague complaints about dhat syndrome. A very fastidious, a very you can say difficult complaint to get out of the minds, because it is local literature or the indigenous literature is filled with problems related to dhat. Vagina, hymen, virginity, fear of insertion. We all tend to use the word, just to how wordplay, how semantics are very responsible for creating fear. We talk about peno-vaginal penetration. What do you penetrate? You penetrate a knife into a body. This is insertion. Just change the word and it becomes very less fearful. Menstruation, bad blood, poisonous blood. People find it, always questions come, is it okay to have sex during menses? But we know that being messy is a problem. So all these, but it doesn't cause any major harmful effect. But this has to be, masturbation usually, one of the most, you can say, most discussed problem, which has a lot of myths attached to it. I lose my hair, stamina, I grow hair on my palm, and so many other things which are there in my masturbation. First night coitus, lots of myths related to that. Sex education leads to promiscuity and promotes irresponsible behavior, is an age-old myth, but the facts speak for themselves. What are the facts? The facts are that research shows the comprehensive sex education, sexuality education, delays sexual activity and promotes safer practices among the sexually active. And young people tend to be more comfortable, more self-confident, and have a good sense of self-esteem if they undergo sex education. Sex ed promotes healthy sexuality and embraces diversity. And sexual expression should eventually become a part of their lives. This is what sex education says. It also delays the debut sexual experience. Now, I have some very good news for you. It's an excellent news, I don't know, it should have been discussed yesterday itself, but here it comes. Proactive Supreme Court on the 25th of this month has given this decision after studying 900 students who were interviewed and they were asked certain questions. The Maharashtra study was cited by the Supreme Court, and we are very glad to inform you that they have made it very clear that comprehensive sexuality education is the need of the time and people should start doing this. So herein CSEPI comes into the issue, comes into the forefront. Kharija sir, decision आपके सामने है, अब हमारे ऊपर है कि हम क्या करें उसका, and we have to push it now. Because give the final push to people, let it be implemented in all the states. Maharashtra is also, we are very progressive and this we are slightly regressive, sir. So we also will have to push. Right now, Nath sir, we are now also a different chapter. So Maharashtra chapter, we have to do something about it. So they have said that societal stigma creates a reluctance to openly discuss sexual health, resulting in a significant knowledge gap among adolescents. This is what Justice D.Y. Chandrachud and Justice J.B. Pardiwala has remarked. So this is the pleasure being with students, not too much of tom-tom about myself, but I have been with Dr. A.G. Sati for the last 30 years giving sex education. It's a very, you see the pleasure in front of children when they talk out these things, because there is nobody really able to listen to them. Now, porn addiction, still the debate goes on. There are so many papers saying that no, porn addiction doesn't happen, it's not an addiction at all. There is no masturbatory addiction related to it. There are no crimes related to porn. Well, then teach porn addiction, teach about porn in schools, why don't you? But no, we know that porn does create, as clinicians, it does create some basic issues like rise in unrealistic expectations leading to sex dysfunctions. It's a known thing. Pornography can lead to the acceptance of gender stereotypes, whipping and male dominance and spurting on the face, etc. Sexual experimentation at a young age, sexual intercourse more often and with more partners. Of course, this is debatable. There are various studies, but we also have the right to put our points in saying that pornography is not the right thing for society today. Can lead to compulsive consumption and addictions. Yes, we have people with masturbatory addictions too, due to pornography viewing. Now, just you can test your own knowledge and imagine yourself sitting in front of your clients and answering these questions. How would you tackle somebody who says sex is equal to intercourse? Yesterday, pleasure, we talked about ejaculation and orgasm, both are not the same. Men think more about sex than women. Man is always ready, size matters, penis size can be altered, sex is a duty for women, etc., etc., etc. Till we come to older adults also. So, you have to now empower yourself into answering these questions. Because of paucity of time, I won't go much into these issues. But, ladies and gentlemen, we are still fighting a battle against people like this. Believe me. Very huge influence on society. He comes up with this statement, and then we have a tough time convincing people. So, because of this, I have to put this, all these myths are there. Homosexuality can be cured, sexual orientation is determined by early sexual experiences, we all know. And there are only two sexual orientations. Alfred Kinsey did say 0 to 6. Where 0 is purely heterosexual, 6 is homosexual, we all, and now new research suggests that sexuality orientation is fluid. So it all depends on how sexuality is expressed. My beliefs, my attitudes, my reactions, and my relationship with my spouse is what matters. And of course, we have to tell people that homosexuals do not come together because of only sex. They are emotionally involved. They love each other. There is a lot of commitment there too. This is a new thing in a digital era. We have asexuals and non-binaries people coming to us. We have to respect their identities. Respect in the sense, not come up with conclusions. Asexuality is nothing new. People are just making up, you're getting a new identity, and that's why, asexual kya hai ye? But yes, asexuals are people who do not have any sexual attraction, right? But they can be romantic. They can have sex also, but the thing is that they are not actively having a desire to have sex with somebody else. Celibate is something like a brahmachari. He says that no, I have to control. And abstinence is, as you know, is willful control of sexual urges. Myth busting is something that we all must do. Last two slides, and I hope I am in time. Last two slides, myth busting is what we have to do. And how do we do it? Empathic listening and counseling and reassurance. We are cure sometimes, reassure often, but often you reassure often, you give relief. Sometimes you give the relief to the patient, but you reassure them very often whenever they come to you. Correction of erroneous beliefs. Use of anatomical pictures, models. Now we have a smartphone on which we can show them particular things and the right data and how to access it. Psychoeducation, where fear is there, fear of penetration, or other insertion diseases, phobias. Like I have had a small session with my girlfriend where I kissed her and am I suffering from HIV, etc. Culturally informed cognitive behavioral therapy is something where you have to be in touch with the various people who come to you and see the background from where the problem arises, which is very, so we are all basically social scientists knowing what the trend is, what kind of practices they are. In Pune, we have a lot of people who are working in the IT sector who have Saturday nights out and they have their own set of problems that they come the next day. So they have to be counseled properly. The role of the sexual health consultant, what is it? Acquire basic skills of counseling, must. Listen without censure, judgment. Understand socio-cultural issues and trends. And create an environment for discussing sexual concerns. You have to spend time for it. Address parent, teachers and groups. Very important. We have to come out of our shells and go out and talk to parents because they don't know what we are talking about in sex, so-called sex education. Right now the term is comprehensive sexuality education. And now, today, influence advocacy measures. We push government policies now that since we have got a good opportunity, and this is, I feel, our duty and we have to be ready for it. We are just not clinicians treating people. We have to go out, give articles, put YouTube videos where you educate people into busting the myths and misconceptions. We are a small force, but we have got to be a formidable force in, at least now, in this century, in this digital era, to kill all the myths and misconceptions which have made people a slave to certain thinking processes and which leads to a problem in their marital life. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed Pune. This is our idol. We can go to Dhabshet, Halwai Ganpati, the Parvati Hill and all that, and be part of the Pune cultural scene also. Thank you very much.